welcome back to my book review channel. Sounds weird saying that, but here we are. We're trying something new. We're doing something new today, and the book I want to talk about will forever have a special place in my heart. And if you haven't guessed it by now, this can't hurt me. David Goggins is probably the most inspirational person that is alive today, and he is a true example of what you can do when you set your mind to something. No matter how bad your personal life is, no matter how bad the world has just beaten you down and broken you and told you that you'll never be good enough, you are still capable of great things. And that is something that I will forever take with me from this book. And it's not just that, but at the same time, like, this book has gotten me through some tough times in my life. When I first read this book, when I first listened to the audiobook, like, I was going through the worst breakup of my life. I really didn't want to keep going on. I just wanted to give up. I just wanted to sit there and not do anything. But I heard some crazy guy that wanted to lose 100 pounds just so he could have the ability to go to Navy SEAL training, which is the hardest training in the world, and then after that go on to challenge himself more and more every single day. Like, it just struck me that, like, maybe there was something else. Maybe there was something I was missing. Maybe there was more of myself that I wasn't getting out every single day. And once I read this book, once I read the journey that he went through, like, I was inspired to become more. And every time I feel myself slipping, every time I feel like I'm losing my mental edge, I'm losing my mental toughness, I will go back and reread this book. I will go back and listen to the audiobook. Like, I probably listened to the audiobook at least 10 times, and every time I learn something new. Every time I get a little bit more mentally tough and mentally resilient. And it's just, it has every element of self-improvement in it, but it has it in the most raw and barbaric way. And if you're not somebody who believes in the law of attraction, this book is law of attraction, but it's in the most brutal and the most barbarian way. And it's not a cookie cutter book. Like, this is a book that you're going to read and you're going to be like, what have I left on the table? I could be so much more. I could be everything I want to be, but I'm not putting in the absolute best. I am selling myself short. And this is a message that so many of us need today, because we live in a day and age of mediocrity. We live in a day and age where people aren't striving for success. Like, we have creature comforts. I have a TV over there. I have an Xbox over there. I can literally play whatever video game I want. All I have to do is put in my credit card information. I could order DoorDash to my door. I could probably order a beer to my house right now. I wouldn't even have to leave the house to get drunk, get a bunch of food, and play video games. But instead of that, I'm trying to do something. Instead of that, I'm trying to start a YouTube channel. Instead of that, I'm trying to start a business and trying to develop myself into a better person each day. And that's what this book is about. And some of the key takeaways I would really like to say is the idea of taking souls. So this is the first thing, and this is how you just demoralize whoever you're competing against. And it's not in the sense of, like, I'm better than you. It's in the sense of, like, when you're competing against somebody, you don't have to go all out. All you have to do is just go one step further than them. And what that means is, let's say you're running with your friend. You guys are keeping pace with each other, and both of you guys are getting tired. It's not the person that is going to just go 100% out for the next mile that's going to win the race. It's the person that is going to keep that pace and is going to keep that pace. And eventually, when that person gets one step behind you, all you have to do is take one more step, and then you can slow down, and you've broken that person's will. You've told them that you're willing to stay in there longer than they can, and because of that, you will forever beat them. And that is a powerful mindset, and that is a powerful message. And this is something that you can take with you into life, because on a baseline sense, we are all competing with each other. On a baseline sense, like, if you want the same job as me, whoever has the better resume, whoever goes into that interview and says they're going to work harder or has this certification or this, like, whoever has the best resume is going to get that job. But there's something to be said about the guy who never gives up. There's something to be said about the guy who will never quit no matter what. And people just are going to bow down to you. People are just going to bend the knee and give you whatever you want, because that intensity is something that we don't see nowadays. That intensity, that grit and that grind and that will to win no matter what is something that is going to take you so much further than every single other person in this generation. We never lived in a softer society, and it's never been easier to get ahead, and all you have to do is just last a little bit longer than everybody else, pick yourself up, and just keep going, keep moving forward, and you're golden. The next thing I want to talk about is the 40% rule. And this is something that David Goggins coined, and this is something that sticks with me every single time I am doing something. And the 40% rule is not something that you're going to have when you're competing with someone else. It's gonna be when you're competing with yourself. When you're on that long run and your calf is cramping up and you want to quit and you want to turn and go back home, but you're just like, why don't I just push a little harder? Why don't I go another step? Why don't I go another step after that? Why don't I just keep going and see, is my calf really gonna cramp up, or am I gonna be able to keep pushing? And more often than not, you're gonna be able to keep pushing. More often than not, when you're in pain, when you're in fear, you can take one more step, and that one more step leads into the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. And next thing you know, you ran 10 more miles than you thought you would just because you pushed yourself a little bit more in that moment. And what that is that's the 40% rule. When we want to quit, generally that just means we're 40% of the way there. We can get absolutely so much more effort if we can just, in that moment of anxiety, in that moment of I want to give up, just say, I'm going to last one more second. And then just say, I'm going to last another second, and another, and another, and another. And next thing you know, you've done more than you thought was imaginable. And this is something that is going to be forever present because your mind wants to conserve your energy. Your mind doesn't want to go into the fight or flight state. Your mind wants to have energy in reserve in case an animal attacks you or you get in a life or death situation. It doesn't want to push you to that limits, but in those limits is how you find out how tough you are, how you get every single inch of your potential out there. And we're scratching the surface with our potential, all of us. And we need to tap into this primal instinct, this primal source of energy, this primal reserve where we never get, like, most people in the modern day and age will never push themselves to the limit, will never see how far they can go physically. And because of that, they're limiting themselves mentally. They're limiting themselves emotionally. They don't know how tough they are. They don't know how resilient they are. And they will forever be somebody that gives in before the bell rings. And this is something that I don't want you to have. This is something that I don't want you to fall victim to, because it's something that if you can't master, you won't live up to your potential. You'll be on your deathbed and you'll say, man, I wish I gave a little bit more. Man, I wish I tried a little bit harder after that dream. And that is something that I don't wish for anybody, even my worst enemy. I don't have any enemies, but in this hypothetical, I still don't wish it on my worst enemy. The last thing I really want to go over is the journey never ends. There was always a next challenge. There was always a next goal. There was always a next thing to have in the back of your mind, because the second that you think you're about to win, the second that you think that you've conquered whatever is in front of you, that just goes back to square one. And the reason why this lesson is so evident is because every time David in his book says he accomplished something great, some other tragedy happens. Like the second he is an active duty Navy SEAL is the second that he has heart issues and he has to get 2 heart surgeries and he's out of commission for years upon years upon years. It's just like whenever you think something's going right, something may go wrong, so you have to stay on top of things. There's always going to be a next challenge. There's always going to be a next battle. Life is always going to throw something at you to try to break you down, but you can't give into this. You can't give into these setbacks, because setbacks are what make the quality of man you are. Setbacks is what drives you to become as strong as you possibly can mentally. It may break you physically, but mentally it always makes you stronger. So I want you to keep these things in mind, and if this is a book that you're interested in just by the things I've said, like, you're in for a world of just happiness, because this book is so much deeper than I could ever explain. This book is something that if you stick with and you stick to the words inside of this book, like, your life will fundamentally change. Your life will fundamentally get better, and you will forever be somebody that is pushing for excellence on a daily basis. And if that sounds good to you, I'm going to put a link to the book in the description. And if you want to hear more of the books I read, more of my thought process through when I read them, subscribe to the channel. I also have a channel where I just talk about self-improvement. It's not so much focused on books. If you want to subscribe to that one as well, much appreciated, and catch you in the next one. Thanks.